if I'm like 85 years old someday and I'm, laying on my deathbed, hopefully, and I'm thinking back to like, man, why was I so worked up and concerned about different stuff on the internet when I was, 21 to 30? Like what could I have been doing during that time? What hobbies could I have been doing? What skills could I have been learning when I wasn't just scrolling through my phone, like worrying about, what somebody with 130 followers was saying, so that definitely does weigh on you a little bit, but it's just, for everybody, it's an individual personal balance that you just got to find, you know what I mean? And it takes time, as I'm sure
Welcome to Thriving in the Wild. I'm Taylor Stern. I'm sharing what happens when you step into your vulnerability, face the hard things, celebrate your journey, and giving you your weekly reminder that no one has it all figured out. It's time to thrive. Let's go. This time last year, our guest was working for his hometown radio station, doing digital media and creating funny social content on the side. Now, he's working for Barstool Sports, one of the most influential sports and lifestyle media brands in America. Barstool reaches a dedicated audience of over 66 million monthly unique users. Joey Mulinaro's rapid rise in the last year is largely due to his out-of-the-box thinking with his comedy and impersonations. His impressions of Nick Saban and other college football coaches has pushed his social following well over 400,000 strong. It was cool to have this talk with my friend Joey to reflect on this past year of his life and how being an internet sensation has changed it all. He also talks about how all of this started, the process of getting hired by Barstool, and keeping the humor during a dark year. If you want to check out his work and connect with Joey, all of his info is linked in the show notes below. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do so. Much appreciated. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. Here's Joey Mulinaro. Where were you this time last year?
I was working in still sports media at in Indianapolis, which is where it's my hometown. It's where I'm based right now. I was our ESPN affiliate. I was working there in digital media, running our YouTube channel and our social medias and doing a little writing, for the website to try to draw people there and just, kind of trying to find any way to break through that I could, and just doing stuff on the side with videos and skits and things like that to try to, just get that breakthrough, get people at my job that I was at that point to say, oh, this guy's talented. He can do stuff. He deserves a shot. So yeah, I was doing that, just still trying to, bust my behind to, get somewhere.
Yeah. What was the breakthrough? Like in your mind, did you want to be the next, I know you get compared to him all the time, but did you want to be the next Frank Caliendo? Is that kind of like what you were thinking? But, or were you just like, I just want to do content?
No, I just, I did not think that. That was never, while Frank is my friend and I respect him and look up to him a lot, he's a mentor of mine. He's a friend of mine. It was
Casual.
never to be
something
like,
you couldn't have said a year.
No, absolutely not. Which is, it's surreal. Because I mean, like, while I'm saying this, that's definitely, I mean, my family would record his segments on Mike and Mike. Like that doesn't take any credit away from how big of a fan that I was and I still am with him. It's just like, kind of one of those things where it's like, you want to be the first Taylor Stern or you want to be the first Joey Mulinaro, right? Like, so as I got older, it became that. And it was like, how do I find my breakthrough here? And I always knew that I always knew that I always know, but I figured out that in my mind, my purpose in life was to make people laugh, was to bring joy to people, to take them away from their everyday nonsense that I got to deal with. And so I was trying to figure out how to make that happen while also make a living out of it, so I could find a way to combine the two. And I mean, just as you were, trying to break through in sports media after school. Obviously, you've done so, and It's got to be even more difficult for females breaking into that industry, I'm sure, but you're just trying to do anything you can to make yourself stand out, right? Because everybody has a communications and degree or experience doing this or whatever, but it's the few people that can make themselves stand out a little bit that get noticed. So I was just trying to find my way with that, and that's where the impressions kind of just came in and was like, here's a way for me to become somebody that people recognize me for and know me for, but then also once that happens, I can run in a variety of different directions. It was just my foot in the door, basically.
And this is no knock on you. I mean, you didn't have the followers you do now then. So why do you think that it set this fire and everyone was like, oh my gosh, look at this content? Just because it had never, I mean, it's been done before. People have done impressions, but what was your sparkle on it?
I've always tried two things when it comes to that part of my content that I do. I always try to attempt to impersonate people who have not been impersonated that much. And then while also doing that, don't just, read some verbatim for how they would say, or, what they would say, throw them in a situation that is not normally what people think of. That's kind of been my recipe for success. I think that's just because people, again, they're not used to it. They haven't heard of Nick Saban, they haven't heard of Jimmy Fallon, they haven't heard of a good coach show to that point. And then when you have Nick Saban talking about Thanksgiving, or when you have Jimmy Fallon being a waiter, or Coach O, rapping Jack Harlow lyrics, those are all things that people are not accustomed to hearing. So that's been my two things is doing those two, and I feel like that puts people in a place where they're like, okay, this is funny, not only because he could do a pretty good impression of him, but also because it's funny to think about Nick Saban getting mad at his wife like everybody does. You know what I mean? So that's kind of been the recipe for success when it comes to doing impressions and skits like that.
So the first video goes absolutely viral, craziness, wild, which is always fun, but it gives you that like instant overwhelming feeling where you're like, oh, I gotta crank something out again. Like, what's my next thing? Did you feel that at all? Or were you just like, I'm ready for this moment. I've actually been waiting for it to be like this.
Yeah. So, I mean, a little bit of both, just because, for 5 or 6 years leading up to that, like I said, I was taking weekend shifts. I was taking every opportunity I could. I was doing overnights. I was working for free. I was, doing things to get my break, to make myself stand out any way I could. So I was glad, and I felt like excited that was happening, on Thanksgiving Day. And I was like, finally, something breaking through. Cool. But then at the same time, it's like, you're only as good as your next at bat, or you're only as good as your next play, right? Like, you gotta come up with something else. You got to keep going. You can't just be the dude that, or, the person that, has that one thing that does really well on ESPN social media accounts or whatever. And then you're done. No, you gotta find more. You gotta find the next thing. You gotta keep pushing. So it was definitely a balance of both of those things. You know what I mean?
Did you feel like, okay, I got to hire an agent, or how did that process go? I mean, I'm honestly just saying, especially nowadays where we consider social media, that's how people are found, Yeah. My sister's in the music industry, and that's how musicians are found these day and age. I don't say that in any humor, because it's legitimately, it's like our news source. It's how we find it.
Sure. Yeah. Not right away. I remember on Thanksgiving Day, I was probably, I think I had like 3,500 followers on Twitter at that time.
I was one of them. I was right there.
Yeah. And I dropped the Saban video, and by the end of that day, I had like 10,000 followers, and at that point, I was like, double-digit followers on Twitter. I mean, holy cow! Like, go back to my 10-year high school reunion in a few years and be like, oh, how many people know you online? Yeah, exactly. Right. Brush the shoulders off. So I do vividly remember that when it hit 10K, being like, oh wow, okay, this is something. But no, it was not to that point yet. Just because I don't know, a lot of my family like didn't really get it at the time. Not my immediate family, but like when I was around them at Thanksgiving, like they didn't really understand. So they humbled me pretty quickly just because they were like, I don't really know who that guy is or like what you're doing or like why it's important. But so I was like, okay, like I just need to slow my roll a little bit.
Now Barstool calls and offers you this job. And I forget where I saw, I was trying to search for it the other day, but I remember you'd posted something like, this was the year, and maybe it was around New Year's or right when you got the job. It was like, this is what I've always dreamed of. Was that what you'd always dreamed of, Barstool? Or was it just getting to that level?
Yeah, I mean, it's surreal because I've been following Barstool, since I was, 17 or 18 years old, listen to Pardon My Take forever. Obviously, Portnoy, it's just like he's one of those people that you don't remember the time in your life when you didn't know who Dave Portnoy was, right? Like he's been around for so long. So it was just surreal to think about, this company and this outlet and these personalities who I've known and followed for so long, now know who I am and now are interested in me. Especially when you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of kids that would chop off their arm to get a chance to be in the office and show what they can get. So I was very grateful. It was a very surreal moment when that happened, and I don't forget that. I remind myself that of a lot. When you think of dreams, my college professor, my advisor, he always said, like, if your first or second job is your dream job, then your dreams aren't big enough. So for me, I have really big dreams. I have dreams of, being in movies or, like being on SNL or things like that. I guess it didn't really hit me how big of a deal it was to be a part of Barstool until I got the job and people were like, this is the new age SNL. Like this is the company that people in 40 years are going to be talking about as, this new thing that came about that kind of took over the world. And so that was pretty eye-opening. So again, I don't ever take it for granted. Every day I wake up, I just want to do as best of a job that I can do for that company, as best I can do for Dave and for Erica, for Big Cat and PFT, because, they gave me my shot. They gave me my shot. They gave me my breakthrough. It's pretty incredible. I mean, I'm rambling, but I get emotional because I think about it. It is. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. But what's interesting is, like, I get that feeling 1000%, but you knew that in your heart that you deserve that. But then it's like, once it comes to fruition, you're like, do I? Like, there's always this like self-doubt. It's like when you're dreaming and you have these dreams of, like, because I could totally see you on SNL and all of these things.
Yeah.
But then even when you reach those peaks or whatever, you're always kind of like, you just kind of, and it's not a constant doubt at all, but it's just, and not even a doubt, but more of an appreciation. Like, hey, this is just awesome to be here.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially in my situation where, I was working at where I was working, and I was, I had like a 1 hour Saturday morning show, and I thought it was just the best thing ever. And I was so excited. And, any chance that I got to do anything, I was like so over the top. And I was always just, like you said, I was like, are we sure? Like, is this good? And then all of a sudden,
they want me on air,
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I got a place like Barstool and Dave Portnoy and Big Cat call me, and they want me to do this stuff for a place like Barstool. So then, multiply that feeling in my previous job times 20. And I'm like, I have to remind myself, I'm like, no, they brought me here for a reason all the time, just because I'm like, are we sure? Is this good? Me? You want me on there? Yeah.
What was the conversation like when you told your boss at the radio station, deuces? Like, I'm taking this opportunity and I appreciate everything you've given me, but what was that like? Because sometimes that's a little bit more uncomfortable than people give credit to.
Yeah, no, it was not the best conversation. It was really disappointing, actually, because I had a close relationship with my boss at the time, in the digital field there. She's in her mid-30s, lady. And I told her, she knew that everything was kind of picking up steam for me, obviously. And I told her the next day after I got off the phone with Dave. I went into her office and I said, hey, I just want you to know, Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports are interested in me, and, they want to talk. And, she played off like she was cool and everything like that. And then so she knew that I was going out there to do all these things and to talk and to get the opportunity. And then when I got back and told her I was taking the job, for whatever reason, it did not go over as well as I thought it would. I thought that more people would be proud of me and happy for me and everything like that. And it was kind of like, who are you to leave us when we've believed in you, which they didn't even really do that much. So it was a weird exit. It was a weird exit for sure. And, but as I'm sure that you've been told, and you got to think about every now and then, like you gotta look out for numero uno. You gotta look out for yourself. And
yeah.
That's essentially what I did after I got that, offer from Dave. So.
Yeah. And the only reason that I kind of assumed that would be the case is because sadly, that's the reality 9 times out of 10. People are always like, oh yeah, man, got your back. Like, you're my dude. And then something really great happens for you. Like you getting, and the only reason that it's such a contrast is like local radio station, local radio affiliate to national thing. That's a big jump. And that's uncomfortable for a lot of people to swallow and grasp. And it's sad. It really is a sad part. I think it's part of our culture where we're like, oh, they think they're too good for us. Well, it's like, no, like if that had gone differently and if that had gone the opposite way, you would have been like, man, these are my day ones. Like you'd be promoting them all the time. You'd be a reflection of them. Like, hey, work here. You could be at Barstool next. Like you're a great study case for them. But for some reason, that's not the way it goes. And I hate to see that was what I assumed, but it just is. And I'm sure you've dealt with that in other aspects of your life as well, only because like when you start really honing into who you are, and that's why I love your story so much, is because you've always been that way, but a lot of people they're not comfortable with themselves. So seeing somebody like yourself is uncomfortable to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. It was just all disappointing. And I don't know if it's because, not to tug on my own strings here, but, they haven't had somebody who has kind of come to them and then made that kind of leap or whatever it was. But it was just, it was a bummer way to go out. It's like I always, what different people have told me, it's like, well, if they wanted to fire you or whatever, then they want to give you 2 weeks, or they want to, throw you a party on the way out and say, hey, you're out of here, see ya. And so, when I go in there and when I've already previously told them that this is an opportunity and a chance that I'm, looking at, and then for, to get treated that way, it was just, it was a bummer. But, we're here now and everything's cool. And that's just part of it.
As a content creator myself, I feel like sometimes there are times when I just want to be unplugged. Do you ever feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a double-edged sword, because these outlets and Twitter and the internet and everything has provided me opportunities and a lifestyle that it was hard to even dream of, when I was in high school or college. So I understand that. I'm very grateful for that. But then at the same time, it's so overwhelming sometimes, and it's so consuming to feel like you constantly have to be plugged in. You constantly have to be in the know. You constantly have to be on top of doing this skit that's about this thing that just broke, or having the hottest tweet or joke about what just happened. That, on the other hand, is very overwhelming and is very burdensome at times. There's a lot of times where I'll tell different people, my family or my friends, it's like, this is great and all, but I mean, sometimes I just wish I could just be a bartender, or like or just, I don't even know, like just not have to have this consume my life, and just live the way that I want to live, and do what I have to do to provide, and go forward from there. So it's a pretty, regular battle, I'd say. But then at the end of the day, I think about getting to meet the different people that I've met and do the different things that I've been able to do and have the relationship with people from teams that I've rooted for my entire life, like the Steelers and the Cubs, or, have a relationship with Jimmy Fallon in a way now. I mean, that stuff is that's what always brings me back. But it is. I mean, I'm always looking for that time to be able to go to a lake or go camping or whatever it is, to be able to say, all right, 2 or 3 days, I'm out. I'm just living my life. I'll come back to this stuff later.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like, especially for people like us in our 20s, it's like, okay, well, we've always been taught and conditioned. It's like the 20s, you just got to grind, and work as hard as you can, because, you can enjoy vacations and you can do that stuff with your family and everything when you get, established, if you would. But it's really difficult, because I know that a lot of people get burnt out, and it's so natural. I mean, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I can't just chill tonight and just take it easy. I got to go, watch what's on sports. And I got, like you said, everybody's striving for the funniest tweet. Everybody's striving for the funniest joke on game day. Everybody wants that thing, but it's not pressure. I think you understand what I'm saying. It's not pressure. It's just annoyance. I don't know.
It's just constantly there.
Yeah, it's just always there. Ever present.
Ever present. Everywhere you go, everywhere I am, it's always there. I can't remember a time in my life when I wasn't thinking about the internet, and that fucks me up sometimes. It makes me think of, in a more morbid way, hopefully, if I'm 85 years old someday and I'm, laying on my deathbed, hopefully, and I'm thinking back to man, why was I so worked up and concerned about different stuff on the internet when I was, 21 to 30? What could I have been doing during that time? What hobbies could I have been doing? What skills could I have been learning when I wasn't just scrolling through my phone, worrying about, what somebody with 130 followers was saying, so that definitely does weigh on you a little bit. But, it's just, for everybody, it's an individual personal balance that you just got to find, you know what I mean? And it takes time, as I'm sure you know.
How do you deal with, because you do have cyberbullies. I think I've commented back, why would this person say that? I just don't get it sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a weird thing, especially because what always gets me and what I always come back to is, and I've mentioned it multiple times already, but, just that clown's prayer that I live my life by. I'm just here to bring unpleasantness away from people, to make people laugh, to bring them joy, to make them forget. And that's what I'm doing. And so when I post an impression or post a skit or post a blog, that is the main objective, that's the purpose. And then to have people then come back and, tell me to kill myself, or tell me to delete my account, or tell me that, I'm the worst unfunny person ever. And it's that's a weird dynamic, a weird math problem that doesn't make sense to me, because it's not like I'm out to be Skip Bayless to troll people nationally and make people pissed off. The last thing I want to make people is pissed off, right? The only thing I want to do is make people laugh and bring just a little bit of joy, even if it's 60 seconds, whatever. And so to see that reaction that I can get, and that I have gotten a lot sometimes, it's very, very confusing. And it can be tough to deal with, because again, I'm like, why does somebody hate me this much who I don't know who they are? I never will know who they are. And I'm not out to get this person. I'm just trying to create an escape. And so that's very disheartening, I think, just for the whole humankind, in a way of just man, are we that fucked up? Are we that miserable? Are we that naturally upset at the world that for somebody who we don't know, just because they have more followers than you and and they have a cool job and, and different things like that, you're just going to tell them that like their wife is going to have Down syndrome babies and you should kill yourself. Like, it's a pretty messed up thing. And it's hard to wrap my head around that sometimes. But I think, everybody's always like, oh, just don't worry about it or just let it go. And it's like, if I just did that, then I think I want to be human, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like it's human to like feel affected by those things,
No, I think that's a great point. Explain to me how you do keep grounded. Like, what does that process look like? I think for everybody, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's I'm a firm believer. Always have been, always will be. I'll teach this to my kids. You're more likely are who you surround yourself with. Whether that be your friends, whether that be a family. You mentioned that stuff in Antonio Brown. You surround yourself with the wrong people, that's not going to help. So I've been very lucky, and I'll, give myself credit of picking the right people in terms of, my friend life and everything. But my friends, my family, I mean, my sister and my brother-in-law, especially. I got a sister who's 3 years younger than me. Her brother-in-law or her husband, my brother-in-law, same age. I mean, I could, I could be starring in the next, Quentin Tarantino film, and they'd be sure to give me shit about it and tell me how I'm not that good. So they keep me incredibly grounded. My mother keeps me grounded. My wife, different people in my life keep me grounded. And my friends too. That's what's been interesting as well, is that through this last year, with everything that's happened, me getting more recognition and more of a following, they haven't, they thought it was cool. They definitely think it's cool. They're definitely proud of me. But they still just, I'm still just Joey, I'm still just a kid that they've known since they were 7 or 8 years old, and they're like my brothers, so, basically long answer short, it's just the people you surround yourself with, even no matter how big you make it in any field. You can't surround yourself with the wrong people. You can't surround yourself with the people who just want to tell you what you want to hear. As much as it must suck for people to be like, oh, I don't think that's a good article to write, or, oh, I don't think that's, your impression needs this help, or whatever it is. It's like, you need those people, man. You really, really do, because those same people who will keep you grounded, they're going to be the first ones that are going to have your back like a freaking loyal dog. So it's a double-edged thing, but it's good both ways.
Do you and your guys, or whoever it is, even your coworkers, you're in such an interesting company with Barstool Sports, like, do you feel like people are like, hey, you good? Especially social media and like what the damage we know it does.
Yeah, I mean, definitely within the people that I work with, for sure. It's, I have a few different people who are, it's like they've told me they'll be my internet hate sponsors, as if it was like, like an Alcoholic Anonymous or something like that. Like, so within, for sure. But I think we're getting there. I think that the conversation and the thoughts about that today are better than they were 5 years ago, and even better than they were 10 years ago. I'm definitely somebody who has dealt with that plenty, and it's before even all this stuff happened. It was just anxiety ridden and paranoia ridden, and just something that really fucks with your head, and then in return fucks with your body, and then makes it not to where you can live the quality of life that you want. That's why when Andrew Luck retired last year, there's a lot of people in different outlets, especially around in Indy, that were kind of playing the old, you're soft, you're a quitter, you're blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting here thinking, at that time, somebody who's, making a beginner's salary out of college and doesn't have anywhere near the pressure that somebody like him has, and things like that, and the expectations, and I feel like my head's messed up. I'm dealing with bad anxiety, bad mental health in a way. And so then for me to think about what he's dealing with, that was just on a whole nother level, So I think that it's just a generational thing, I whether it be, unfortunately, with all the Skip Bayless stuff with Dak, or even, grandparents and parents, compared to if I were going to go say, hey, I'm feeling this way. I don't feel quite right. I feel really messed up. What's going on? What should I do? And for them to just say, oh, just, take some deep breaths and just relax. You have a good life. It's not really how it works. It's a relatively new thing. I think that, people like yourself, people like me, people like Dak on the level that he has and everything going on, to be able to make that known. I think it's important. I really do, because, there's such a disconnect in my mind from the people that came before us, who, in their mind, if you mental health, then you're, that's like putting you in a straitjacket in a mental institution, where it's not that, obviously. It just had that stigma, it had that nasty stigma about it. So I'd like to think that by the time that, you and I, have families of our own, and our parents one day and everything like that, and then grandparents, that'll come to that time where it's more well accepted, and people can go to their dads, they can go to their granddads, they can go to their moms and say, I'm just feeling off. I'm feeling weird. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling not myself. And then we can say, oh, we'll just take a deep breath. Instead of saying that, saying, okay, let's talk about some things. Let's figure some things out. Let's get you some better practice for making that better. So, it is. It's something that's very, very important to me, just because I know how badly it's fucked me up before. Mm-hmm. So anytime, obviously, that something is, affected you, you're going to have a different outlook on it than something that hasn't affected you, which, in today's day and age, we've seen with a variety of different things that people just can't, quite seem to understand.
Yeah. Last and final happy question. When
Okay.
do you feel like you're thriving?
I feel like I'm thriving. Like in my
in your
like
element,
professional career, like my own
whatever. It could be professional, it could be personal. Like, when do you feel your happiest? Like, what makes you happiest? Like, this is my jam. It could be playing video games. It could be doing.
Yeah. So a few different answers. I'll start professionally, because there's less amount of that professionally than there is personally. Professionally, I feel like that when usually either myself or me and Ben, my buddy Ben Polizzi, are coming up with a skit idea, or like writing a script, or in the process of making it, because that's just such a pure like high, like a pure adrenaline rush of just getting that excited and laughing that wholeheartedly about like, oh man, this is great. This will be great. What about this idea? Like, oh man, that's killer. And then, like really that process is, I love that, because it's just me, or it's just me and Ben, and it's not the whole internet and everybody wanting to say a bunch of nonsense. Like that's what it's all about, is like the process of making it to where then the people who do like it hopefully feel that way. But in that moment, it's the best, because like I said, it's just us and it's just me, and like, that's when you're feeling that purpose of like, yes, like I'm onto it. And then personally, it's really, I love my cats. I'm very, very open about my cats, Ruby, Remy, and Rocco. I have 3 of them. They're parts of the loves of my life. They bring so much joy to me. So when I'm laying in bed or on the couch and one of them snuggles up with me, it's a very great thing. And then really, when I'm with the rest of my family and we're watching the Steelers, it's I always say it's like the church, like it's the Mulinaro's church in the fall of Steelers football. Like that's what we do on our Sundays. That's what we get prepared for, and that's our time we spend together. And it's very important to me. It's a thing that I cherish a whole lot. And even when it's frustrating or they're losing, or and it sucks, and I'm so mad, but that's what it's about, right? Life's about being passionate about things and enjoying the ups and downs, and feeling alive when they do score that touchdown and you're so happy, or that's the best. So I'd say those 3 things, I guess. That's where I'm thriving.
Hi! Are you loving the show? Go find that little subscribe button on your podcast app. This will ensure you won't miss a single episode. Until next time.